You're watching Unrendered on IKTV. I'm Tony Regisford, and my guests are Dr. Jozelle Miller and Dr. Claudius Davis. We were looking at the whole aspect of the different feelings, the different emotions, and how you deal with them. And I think off camera we were saying, when we went to the break, we were saying that people must take their own time as well. You can't rush people. You can't force them to go beyond the stage they're at necessarily. You can coax them along, but it's counterproductive to sort of rush them. How much of a bad thing is the posting of photographs, etc., of the incident on things like social media and so on? Photographs of people who are dead, they're lying, or even, the most sordid, graphic pictures.
The word that I was thinking of is toxic.
Yeah.
Because it is like a blight. It is going to reinforce these traumatic like symptoms. I mean, can you imagine a child in a van with her best friend? She died, and then now you're looking on Facebook, seeing this child. I mean, it seems like we as adults don't stop and think. And so I want to say to the parents out there that you really need to do everything in your power to protect your children from looking at, especially those children who are involved in this. They should never be exposed to those kinds of photographs. And so I did speak to some of the parents about that, but I'm hoping that some who we may not have spoken to will see this program and understand how detrimental that is, because some of these children will not be able to sleep at night, be able to witness this, and it's so easy for them. And they may even get it in their cell phones, because we WhatsApp everything around the people. And I think it's very toxic. I think it's irresponsible. And I think we need to speak up, about this, and we need to let parents know that this is something that they need. One thing about parenting is that not only should we be disciplining our children, but I think monitoring is key. We need to know where our children are, who they are with, what they're watching, and we need to police that. And sometimes we become so busy that we seem to not have the time to do that. And with all that texting and the iPhones and the tablets,
things move around really fast.
Kids are exposed to so much. But I think this kind of material is toxic. And this particular group of students, this cohort of students, should not be exposed to that. Yes, needs to be protected from that.
Well, it's so difficult because you're dealing with social media, which is largely unregulated. The access is, all over, whether it be via your own smartphone, somebody else's smartphone, your laptop, your tablet, or what have you. So that must be a very difficult thing.
You see, the thing is,
go ahead.
Not to cut you, sorry, is that we believe that we can handle most things. So even today, when the newspapers came out, I said that I do not want the students to see the newspaper. And somewhere along the line, one of them got a hold of a newspaper, and then it affected them emotionally because she started crying again.
Yes.
And it just goes to show we have a curious mind, and most things we think we can handle.
Curiosity kills the cat.
Until we go and we are faced with it and we realize, and this is probably just a bit too much right now. I remember, I think it was this week, Hot 97.
Yeah.
I heard one of the persons on there condemning the whole idea of persons sharing these photos, and I had to agree with him.
Yes.
Because I think it rips the dignity of any human being to see their loved ones dead being displayed. We have to show compassion. We have to learn how to empathize. We have to do the things that we would want for ourselves. We won't want someone to broadcast our loved ones, then don't do it. I don't know what purpose they think it serves, what they're trying to, I don't know. It baffles me sometimes what people do.
How about, so that's the where they're shown in an undignified way, lying on the beach, frothing at the mouth. I've actually seen one of those photographs, you know, which I thought was quite, you know, as you say, you know, so toxic. Why would somebody want to just rush and put that up as a post? What about the photographs now that show the person
In good times.
in good times? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or
I have seen some of those on Facebook.
I think we have done, not cutting it, but we have done at our school, different places that I've been, where we would have like dedicate the entire hallway of images like that. Maybe
Right.
poetry, things a student has done, you know, as a way of remembering and
Yeah.
painting in
but
people's
that still would
mind.
invoke sadness, though. But
Yes,
is
but
that
not
a
the
different
type.
type?
It has a different
Yeah.
take to it, though, because you choose to remember a portion of this person's life that had an impact on you, a positive impact.
Right.
And that's kind of a way of remembering. It's almost a celebration, so to
Right.
speak, of that person. So it has its meaning. And I mean, you know, the funeral, sometimes the memorial services, that we sometimes turn it into what it, you know, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it gives people sort of a closure
Right.
to thing, and they're able to express. And rarely do you hear people express something bad about someone. They always reach back in their head for
It's
something
not,
positive.
Not the time and place for it, right?
Right. And I'm saying those photographs have no place at this time ever of these kids.
Yes.
These are kids.
I saw a few tributes on Facebook of, I think, 2 of the young ladies who passed away. And it seems like they came from their friends, I think,
Right.
with music and Gone Too Soon and We'll Miss
So
You.
those are palatable.
Okay, that's
those,
fine,
those,
because
those
it
are
shows
okay.
them that somebody is saying how much I love you and I'm
Right.
going to miss you, so that's fine. I say to parents and the loved ones that I've been interacting with, try to foster that memory, that good memory. Let that be the one that, you know, permeates your mind,
Right.
as opposed to all the, you know, any pictures of the bodies or people saying X, Y, Z, because you have a lot of stories out there. I said, you know, try to shut yourself away and just simply zone in on the positives within this very trying situation.
Yes. You mentioned closure, and before we get on to the stage 3 of the recovery process, right? You mentioned closure, and there's the case now where 2 people, I guess presumed dead by now, have not been found, okay? And that takes the whole thing to another level, I suppose. You want to have at least get back the bodies of your loved ones. How have you been dealing with that particular scenario? Because you're encountering the people, you're counseling the people who are experiencing that right now. How have you been dealing with that?
Well, most of these persons with the missing children have been counseled in the community. It's just today, for the first time, I saw the parents of one of the students.
Right.
And so we have organized to have follow-up sessions with them after, you know, especially after the funeral. So how do they prepare for a funeral that has no body? It is going to be very hard, because in the back of your mind, you know, you still hope against hope that somewhere,
Picked
you
up by
know,
a fishing
somebody
boat, hanging
picked
onto a
her
rock
up,
somewhere.
or, you know,
Yes.
and, you know, miracles to happen.
Yes.
But it comes a point in time when you have to force yourself to accept that this is not going to happen, or this may not happen, and try your best to move on. It is far easier for someone who can see a body and to know for a fact that this child is gone, as opposed to someone who has to be always having that guess, because, you know, maybe for moments after you might still have this thought in your mind, what if I put into her someplace, or, you know, but we have to get to the place where we accept, you know, really the odds.
Yes.
What are the odds now in that type of terrain, that water, you know, that this person is going to be found alive?
I always say that, and especially when we're dealing with children, I always say it must be a parent's worst nightmare. And fortunately, these things don't happen necessarily in St. Vincent, but Dr. Davis, in places like the States and so on, where children are kidnapped and just vanish, no trace. That must be a parent's worst nightmare.
It is, and it's you know, especially for the parents here though. I think the issue is, you know, you have to give them time for the replacement in their own mind, and also running counter with this is the idea of betrayal. You know, giving up too soon may mean that you've betrayed
Right.
your
So,
child.
so you want to hang out hope.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
you know you have to run that to the end of that.
Yes.
And so what I'm hoping would be that they would attach themselves to some community support system, such as the church, who can be there for them and be patient enough to allow them to go through that process with the support, because you don't want them to do it with a sense of being alone.
Yes.
I mean, they feel alienated, they feel guilty, and certainly they don't want to betray their own flesh and blood by giving up too soon. So that's very difficult, but I think the answer to that might be to get them connected to a community base, especially if it's one of faith,
Right.
where each Sunday, each week, there are people there that they go together. Remember the old days, you have the 40 night stuff
They still
where
have it.
people... they still
Not
have
the old
it?
days. We're still doing it.
Yeah, but it was designed for a purpose.
Yes.
You know, because when that time comes, it's like you're saying, look, we're done. We've been with you for 40 days.
Yes.
You know, shape up,
This
get
is-
on with your life.
This is the 40 night.
You move on with your life, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we need to give these people an opportunity. I don't think we need to, you know, imply or give them the notion that they may be crazy or you stupid, what are you thinking? You know, I think this is a time for us to render empathy, like you mentioned earlier, but even more so to connect them to some concrete services within the community. So you find out what church are they connected with, you know, you get the pastor involved in that, or whoever is involved in that congregation, and you connect that. And then that way on a weekly basis, they could, because they would evolve eventually,
Yes.
but they need time to evolve, but you need a support system that's going to be there with them.
And that takes me, go ahead, Dr. Miller.
And, you know, just adding to what Dr. Davis said, part of the thing as well, we want to give them time, yes, to, you know, accept, to start moving on, and to replace, as we say. But we also want them to be mindful that, especially those that have other children, sometimes the other kids get lost in the whole groove of things.
Right.
So we also focus on the one that
That's
is not
gone.
there, that is gone, and the hope of them coming back. That sometimes we get so caught up that we forget those that are right there looking at you grieving every
they
single
develop
day.
some other feelings of neglect.
Right.
And
So we have to, you know, try and support them enough that they can, you know, form that balance. As well as we put things in time frames, because we want to be able to say, you know, if after 6 months
yes.
the room is still the same, or even after a year, the room, nothing has changed, and, you know, the youngest sibling cannot touch anything for the one that is missing and all that stuff, then we start saying that, okay, some maladaptive things may be going on that we need to address. So we have to be quite careful. But support is going to be very important, as Dr. Davis
And I
said.
suppose that's the sort of interventions that you're going to have to make. So this is your work is just beginning, basically.
Oh, yes.
I know this section kind of rushed out on us, and I want to look at what is termed here the third phase, constructive action. People need to take action and make a difference in the smallest ways. And I guess that is also pretty connected, or the natural follow-on from the feelings section. So is it what you are advising people? The little things they do. You don't have to have the big picture. The little things that you do. The glass of water that you get for, you know, somebody who's grieving. The little back rub or whatever.
All these things add up.
All of them add up.
Because I said to one of the parents, what these children are going to be needing right now is a reassurance of that sense of security. They need to feel safe again. And, you know, we are in a community sometimes that parents don't hug a lot. So you have to start hugging your children, hold them, let them feel grounded, especially, you know, at night.
Yes.
If you have a nightmare, whatever the case is, don't just brush it off to say, okay, go back to sleep. But you need to make them feel a sense of, you know, safety
Security.
and security at that point. One of the things I've always noticed, someone dies and you have a community of people around you. That's good. Up to the funeral, maybe a few days after the funeral, and then life goes on. And people forget that this is still the grieving person who has to deal with the memories, who have to deal with all the other life issues and the other stresses. But people have moved on. And, you know, we have to always remember that even from months or 2 months after, you still need to make that call and say, how are you today?
So the constructive action is required. That's
Yes.
what we're saying in
Yes.
stage 3. You have to, it's not just finished after
After the funeral.
the funeral.
That's
The
probably, as
grieving-
you said, that's where it begins.
That's where it begins. The grieving person now must not be left alone, basically.
And some of the, you know, I was thinking of a case actually where, you know, they had lost their son, and the marriage was really bad for the past 30 years. There's nothing good about it.
Mhm.
So what's happening now is, as part of the healing process, is focusing on the quality of the marriage for our son.
Right,
Let's hold this thing together.
right.
And now, last week they said, man, the marriage is good. We're spending more time in the bedroom.
Right.
We're doing everything. The world is great. Okay, so in a concrete way, we especially with the family, husbands and wives, you know, as clinicians, we can get them to shift their attention away from the loss to begin to build what they have, construct what they have. Spend some time with your wife, husband, have some honeymoon together,
Right.
start doing some quality things with the children based on your income, so that everybody can feel like we're a family. Yes, we've lost something, but you know what? We have each other.
Still have each other.
We have each other.
On that note, we will take this third segment out. I must caution you when we come back, we're into our final segment. So we'll have to get said what we need to say in the next 12 or so minutes when we come back.
Okay.
This is Unrendered on IKTV. More with my guests when we come back from the break.